Let me start with the politics of this thing. What's the court ruling 5-4, no surprise, all Republicans against 4 Democrats, basically the same kind of running of the support we've had for years now, giving Trump a seal of approval on his travel ban, which was basically intended as a Muslim ban.
Well, the word that his aides want people to know is vindication. That's what they're saying. But
Trump needs vindication?
No, Trump feels vindication as a result. Exactly. So, but Trump theoretically, I think, understood the value of having a conservative stacked court. And obviously he released the list of his justices during the campaign and felt that contributed to his victory. But this is the first time he's seen a really tangible result of that conservative control.
Maria Teresa, this is aimed at Muslims, or it was aimed at Muslims, but now he's got a free fire zone for everybody. Doesn't it smell like he's got what he wants, which is a seal of approval? Do what you're doing, Mr. President, the court said.
That's exactly right. And I think that under this president, what we're seeing is a massive revamping of our immigration policy. He basically not only removed DACA, but he's also removed temporary protective status. This basically allows that part of that immigration narrative. If Trump continues down this course, we're going to have roughly about 4 million people that were documented today, Chris, undocumented by 2020. So what we need is Congress to act to ensure that they are rescinding that. But I think the biggest challenge here—
How do you take away documentation? I didn't know you could do that.
Yeah. So basically, with temporary protective status, but there's a whole slew. There's also—
Okay, let's talk politics for a second. I'm sorry, because I know you're the expert on these numbers, and I appreciate that. But it seems to me Trump has made a calculated white-only campaign. He's basically said, okay, I'm going to speak dismissively of all kinds of ethnic groups, but I'm going in front of a white audience. I'm going to sell myself. I'm going to get 100% of the whites, what he's aiming at, some absurd percentage. And he doesn't care if he gets Hispanic votes. Doesn't care if he gets the small number of Muslim or Asian votes. He acts like he doesn't care they exist. Except to call them rapists and everything else.
Right, I don't think that's wrong, but I think what his miscalculation is that the majority of Americans are not siding with him, including people that are white.
Yeah.
We have to keep in mind.
Well, wait a minute, 90% of the Republican Party are backing him down the road. I mean, 9 out of 10.
Right, but you have to remember 3 million Americans voted differently. They didn't vote for this candidate. You have 93 million Americans who voted out. Who's marching right now since the Women's March? These are a likelihood people that not only voted, but people that sat it out and are saying, wait a second, this is not the direction.
I think he's calculating, Susan, on Latino voters not voting very strongly in 2018.
Yes, that's absolutely.
He's counting on that.
He's counting on it, and we've seen in off-year elections, like a lot of different Democratic blocs, Latino voters, young people, they don't show up in midterm elections. I agree with you. He is using race as a motivator for his people to turn out. What I think the miscalculation that he's making for 2018 is that they're not coming out for him. And he doesn't translate to down ballot candidates as much as he thinks he does. So you're looking at the suburbs, you're looking at white suburban women. They have a problem, and they have learned, whether it's this decision or waking up every day and seeing this man in the White House, elections have consequences. That's why they're showing.
By the way, what you just said about white women or whatever, the suburban somewhat better off than the average women in the burbs, I thought they would come out, and I thought they would bring their husbands out in 2016, all to vote against Trump. And now that they've got a good look at the guy, you say they won't.
No, I'm saying they will show up to vote against Trump.
Okay. A week after being on the defensive for separating small children from their parents, the Trump administration seems to be back on offense, attacking Democrats. Let's watch that.
And what we're looking for as Republicans, I can tell you, is strong borders, no crime. What the Democrats are looking at is open borders, which will bring tremendous crime.
He's doing exactly what the American people ask him to do, and the left doesn't like it.
They've made it very clear that they don't want to work with the president, that they don't want to fix our immigration system, that they'd rather have open borders and rampant crime than work with the president to create solutions.
I've never seen a more blatant campaign message, more divisive, because obviously the tax cut, which I've looked at, we had it on last night, gave very little help to the working people out there, men and women. And go ahead. And so they've said, let's try this hate thing.
Right. Oh, and it's working. So Conor Lamb, when he did his special election, that's where the Republicans first tested this whole idea of the taxes. Is it going to work? It didn't stick. So what they did—
Well, you know why it didn't stick? Because nobody got any money.
Exactly. Well, exactly right. I mean, people were able to— they recognized that it was a ruse. So instead, during the primaries, right after that, they ran 14,000 anti-immigrant ads to move their base into the primaries, and in some cases it worked. And I think that we have to do a concerted effort of making sure not only are we telling people what's actually happening, but this idea that this is a Democratic issue, the Democrats don't control any part of the House. His legislative arm of his party does. So they have to actually step up and actually pass some sort of immigration.
Which is exactly why he needs that smoke and mirror kind of thing going on, because not only did the tax cuts not help people that thought they were going to get it, it's good. They're going to see a financial hit on their pocket, but come October, when they get the rates for their health insurance bills, which premiums are going
You're
to
talking
go up.
good old bread and butter politics. Trump is selling a new kind of politics, which is simple. Right. One message, and my question to you is, will all the Republicans candidates, or most of them running for re-election or elections to governor, Senate, House, are they going to go out there and say, closed border, Democrats are all for open borders and crime? Will they all sing that song?
Some of them won't. Some of them don't want Trump anywhere near their district. Carlos Corbello, some of these vulnerable in swing districts, no way they're going to just listen to Trump's message. But just back to your original point, Steve Bannon used to say to me, he said it to me so many times, fear is the best emotion. It's the most powerful emotion. Fear wins elections. And Corey Lewandowski, Trump's former campaign manager, said
recently...
He
just lost his job yesterday.
Today. Sure. But he has the same attitude. He said the other day, the voters aren't going to come out to vote if you just say thank you, for the tax cut. You need to rev them up with something. And I don't think Trump articulates this stuff. I don't think he thinks about it in this sort of like, well, what are white suburban women going to do? But he understands at a gut level that this emotion and fear works.
I think for a group of a Republican base, of his base does, but I also think that the majority of Americans, they're getting a little tired. They are getting drained and exhausted.
The numbers don't show that, Teresa. He's still getting that same level of 40 to 45, back and forth, 40. It modulates, but it never really changes. The
most stable element in the universe.
It doesn't move. The thing doesn't move, does it? I haven't seen him going down in the 30s. He's up around 40, 45, which is what he had to win with.
We're 4 months away, right? So 4 months is eons in any election.
But you're predicting something's going to happen or saying it's happening. Are people turning off to Trump? I don't see it. I think this hate thing is working for him.
Well, it's again, what are we looking at? We're looking at 24 House seats. That's what it takes. That's what's going to. So that's the game, and those are all.
If the Democrats don't win the House, Trump wins.
Right.
Last night, President Trump, who likes to tout his own accomplishments while dinging past presidents, also took aim at former First Lady Laura Bush, the librarian. She's a nice lady. Are you crazy? But with Trump, here we go. Let's watch.
I don't believe, and I don't even think it's close, that any president has done what we've done in 500 days. Hey, look, I got a bad hand. Ronald Reagan couldn't get it. Nobody could. I didn't even want it until I heard everybody else wanted it, and I said, it's like a freebie. They were saying, Hillary Clinton could have done that. I don't think so. It was a disaster for Bush. Although we very much appreciated Laura Bush's lovely letter. It was a disaster for Obama.
Well, it has to do with ANWR up there and developing the Arctic Circle for exploitation for fossil fuels, I suppose. But why did he take a shot on Laura Bush, who everybody likes?
Because he's a petty person. He can't help himself, and he likes to take those shots because it makes him feel strong, and he has especially when he has a crowd behind him, and he gets revved up, and he likes to stick it to everybody he feels stuck it to.
The master of trolling. If it's not Trump, it's Mitch McConnell. Yes, it is. Majority Leader Mitch McConnell's political team took a victory lap after today's Supreme Court ruling, tweeting this picture of the Senate with Justice Neil Gorsuch. Of course, Khanna, who was frequently called the Democrats' obstructionist, famously blocked the nomination of former President Barack Obama's Supreme Court pick, Merrick Garland, back in '62, just 2 years ago. How do Republicans manage to pretend to forget that the Democrats, wanted a bill on immigration in 2013? They wouldn't bring it up in the House. They wanted to vote on their Supreme Court nominee. They wouldn't bring it up. They wanted to finish the recount in Florida. They wouldn't let them do it. And yet the Republicans called the Democrats obstructionists. Memory, zero. Zero memory.
I'm shocked at the hypocrisy, Chris. I'm shocked. It's the thing he's most proud of. Mitch McConnell, by far.
But obstructing.
The
refusing
Merrick Garland,
a hearing or a meeting.
Absolutely.
With this guy.
The Merrick Garland delay is absolutely what he's most
And he
proud
wasn't a lefty.
No.
Merrick Garland was a straight middle of the highly praised attorney.
This idea that they let Mitch McConnell actually roll over the Democrats. I would actually put that on the feet of the Democrats and the president.
What were they going to do? He was running the thing.
You have to play tough, though. You do, and I think that you have to be able to. I mean, I worked on the Hill. You worked on the Hill.
Mitch.
I'm
with you. I think sometimes you got to say, you break the rules, we push.
There are consequences.
Jonathan Swan, sir. The Jonathan Swan. Susan Del Percio. Thank you, Maria Teresa Kumar.
Hey there, I'm Chris Hayes from MSNBC. Thanks for watching MSNBC on YouTube. If you want to keep up to date with the videos we're putting out, you can click subscribe just below me, or click over on this list to see lots of other great videos.